Hey guys, welcome to the channel. It's time for another hardware review. Today I have this. It's an orangepi 5 and it comes with 8 gigs of RAM. I got this for the bargain price of £50 from someone on eBay a couple of months ago. Anyway, let's take a closer look at the packaging. There we go. So pretty plain. The fancy nothing, fancy no specifications. Let's open it up and see what's inside. There's a pretty basic manual here. Nothing too interesting. The unit itself is still sealed, so let me get some scissors and I'll open it up. Right, let's take a closer look at the hardware and what I/O ports it has. Okay, let's start here. Here we have a USB-C power port. It supports 5 volts at 4 amps, as you can see. Next to it we have the audio jack, which is 3.5 millimeters. And next to that we have the HDMI port, which is a full-size HDMI port, which is nice to see. And then we have a USB-C port, which supports USB 3.1 standard. And then next to that we have a flexi connector for the LCD, connecting LCDs to it. And next to that we have some camera ports here. There's 3 of them on the board in total, 1, 2 and 1 on the other side. Okay, let's have a look at the side here. Over here we have a USB 2.0 port, and then we have a gigabit Ethernet port, and here we have 2 USB ports. I believe only one of them is USB 3.0, the bottom one is USB 2.0, but they're both coloured blue for some reason. And at the top here we have a 26-pin GPIO header port with a debug port here. And then on the side we have the micro SD card slot. And also this here is an on-off button, which makes a nice clicky sound. Click, click. And check this out here. This is a microphone slot. Well, microphone built into the board as well, which is pretty interesting. Okay, let's have a look at the back. On the back we have, there's another one of them camera ports here, and an LCD port, and a M.2 card slot, which supports NVMe SSDs, which is nice to see, which is one of the reasons why I bought this card single board computer. Okay, and this is the version 1.2 of the board. And there's the processor. I don't know if it will focus. I don't think it will focus on the processor, it's too shiny. Okay, let's take a closer look at the specifications now. For the CPU it's a Rockchip RK3588S, and it's an 8-core CPU with 4 of the cores operating at 2.4 GHz, while the 4 little cores operate at 1.8 GHz. The GPU is a Mali G610 GPU with support for Vulkan 1.2 and OpenGL up to 3.2. It also has an NPU unit, which is good for AI acceleration. The RAM goes up to 32 gigabytes, but the one I have here is only 8 gigabyte version. And as you can see, for the USB port here is it only has one USB 3.0 port, but it does have one Type-C USB port which supports USB 3.1. And the HDMI port supports HDMI 2.1 up to 8K at 60 Hz. And what's also interesting is that it has a HDMI 2.1 eARC support as well for extracting audio. And of course we've only got a gigabit Ethernet port on the back there. And for the power supply, it needs 5 volts at 4 amps, so you can use the Raspberry Pi 5's power supply if you have that at hand, and that's what I use to power it with. And the operating systems, there's quite a few now. You've got orangepi's own Droid OS, Arch Linux, Ubuntu, Debian and Android. For most of the emulation tests I used Android 12. Okay, now let's have a look at some emulation, which is what we've been waiting for. Right, first up it's Dead or Alive 2 with some Dreamcast emulation. The Orange Pi 5 had no trouble emulating the Dreamcast. As you can see, it's pretty much flawless.
Winner! 私の戦いは終わりじゃない。そこか。戦いたくない。私を行かせて。聞いてください、はやぶささん。はやてへの誓い、お前は死なせん。行かせるわけにはいかん。そして忍びの道。道は無極。厳しいものと知れ。
Right, next up it's Tekken 6, and this is on the PSP with PPSSPP. And we have 3x resolution here, and it's looking great, no trouble whatsoever.
You win. Round 2. Fight. KO. You win. Get ready for the next battle. Round 1. Fight. KO. You win. Round 2. Fight.
Right, it was time to take up the emulation a notch, and with some Switch emulation. This is running a Yuzu on Vulkan, and as you can see, it's pretty much spot on. And if you compare it to the Raspberry Pi 5 emulating the same game, it's night and day difference. I could barely get 1 or 2 frames on that. Go back and have a look at my review and you'll see.
You win! Perfect! Thailand! Round 1, fight!
Right, this game, Fighting EX layer on the Switch, is more demanding than Ultra Street Fighter 2, and with all the particles and effects going on, the frame rate takes a bit of a knock, and it's not as running as smoothly as Street Fighter 2. As you can see on the top left hand corner, the emulation only goes to about 40 frames per second. Otherwise it's still playable, but not great.
KO!
Right, now it's time for some PS2 emulation with AetherSX2 and Time Crisis 3. And the Orange Pi 5 struggles with this, just as the Raspberry Pi 5 did. And it's not a great experience. But there are ways to improve the emulation, but I kept it as stock here to see what you get out of the box. And here's another game, R-Type Final, also on AetherSX2 and with similar issues. Not a great experience out of the box. Next up is some Wii emulation with Tatsunoko Vs Capcom running on the excellent Dolphin emulator. It's quite enjoyable and certainly a little bit better than the Raspberry Pi 5, but it's not perfect. As you can see, there's some slowdowns when a lot of effects are on screen. Next up, I tried some Gamecube emulation, and here's a Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, and it ran pretty decently in most areas, as you can see here, even though the frames per second is a bit garbled on screen, but it ran pretty decently. Right, next up I wanted to try some Naomi 2 emulation because the Raspberry Pi 5 struggled with it. So I wanted to compare how it did on the Orange Pi 5. And it did pretty well on Virtua Striker, as you can see here. It ran pretty decently.
Free kick. Throw in. Time up. PK.
And here's Beach Spikers, also on Naomi 2, which really struggled on the Raspberry Pi 5. But here, if you can look at the frame rate on the bottom left hand corner, we get a steady 60 frames per second. And it was no problem for the Orange Pi 5, a much better experience. And finally, this Naomi 2 game, Club Kart, really surprised me because I could barely run this at 1x on the Raspberry Pi 5, but here I managed to run it at 3x and it's really smooth, running at 60 frames per second all the way with many cars on screen as well. And I was really pleased with the emulation on Orange Pi 5. Next up, I tested the media capabilities of the device with some 4K 30 frames per second footage. As you can see, it was really smooth and no trouble for it whatsoever. And here is the same movie in 4K 60 frames per second, and you can see 0 skip frames, which the Raspberry Pi 5 really struggled with this. If you go back and have a check, this is a much better experience. Right, next up it's time for some Geekbench 5 and 6 benchmark runs. I'll skip to the end of the benchmarks so we can see the scores. Right, here's the scores. What's surprising is that the single core score was only 542, which is lower than the Raspberry Pi 5s. But the multi-score was a little bit higher at 1898. And here's the Geekbench 6 score, and as you can see the multi-core score is 2272, which is a lot higher than the Raspberry Pi 5's Geekbench 6 score, as we'll see in a minute. And here we have the Geekbench 5 scores on a chart, and as you can see there doesn't appear to be much in it between the Raspberry Pi 5 and the orangepi 5, except the multi-core score is slightly higher. But where things do take a big turn is the multi-core score on the Geekbench 6 benchmark. As you can see, it's a massive gain over the Raspberry Pi 5, even though the Raspberry Pi 5 appears to have a higher single core score. Well, it's time to wrap up this video. Overall, a great little emulation machine. I was surprised at how much faster it was in some emulators like Flycast and PPSSPP. The extra 4 cores over the Raspberry Pi 5s really helps in some emulators. I also observed some great temperatures. It was a good 20 degrees Celsius cooler, and that's with using a similar aluminium style case as you see here. Installing Android, which is the operating system I used on the NVMe, still takes some proprietary software from orangepi's website. But once it was installed, it updated over the air, and you had the Play Store available, which made installing additional software a lot easier. I did try Linux and Android, and although the software wasn't up to date and as stable as the Raspberry Pi 5s, it's come a long way, and it wasn't as bad as it once was. So with some more updates, it'll become quite a good alternative to the Raspberry Pi 5. I should also mention that in Android, not many Bluetooth USB adapters work. I tried 4 different ones, and this is the only one that did work. So if you're interested in it, get this particular one for Android. Okay, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. I got something cool coming up. Cheers.